We have Jessica Hayes from Proper Insurance joining us today. And I'm so glad to have her because Jessica is going to share a little bit about commercial insurance and why it's so important, especially for those of us who are looking to do short term rentals, purchasing property for income purposes. So, welcome, Jessica.
Hello, I'm happy to be here.
It's great to see you. And can you tell us a little bit more about how commercial insurance works and why Proper is such a great choice for people?
Absolutely. So, proper insurance is actually, we're kind of a niche insurance. We're a one trick pony with short term rental coverage. So, it is all inclusive, designed to completely replace your current policy. And we have coverage enhancements for short term rentals specifically, which includes commercial, general liability coverage, as well as business income protection. So, it's definitely unique. We kind of cover the things that other policies won't.
Okay, great, great. And short term, I guess, can you define what short term is for people? Because sometimes, obviously Airbnb comes to mind, but you've got people who Airbnb for more than 1 month sometimes. So, what is short term rental?
So short-term rentals are going to be any rental that's less than 6 months, at least on our book, because as long as they're booking online and you're hosting them, that's considered short-term renting. So as long as the stay is less than 6 months, falls under short-term rental. Anything over that kind of falls into a longer-term stay.
Okay, great. And what are some of the most important areas to cover for liability for short-term rental?
Most important areas are probably going to be your malicious damage. Guests, you never know who's going to stay in your short-term rental. So if they're, maybe you have a guest that comes and stays with you and they cause property damage to somebody else's property, that liability is going to fall on you because our coverage does go off the premises. So any liability, whether they're getting themselves hurt or causing damage that's not necessarily at your property, our liability will respond.
Okay, great. And that, what I have gathered is also includes perhaps, say, there's a community pool in the area. Does that also extend outside of the actual property itself?
It does. You never know if somebody could, maybe they dive into that community pool and they hurt themselves. You could be held liable for that. Some other things that we cover are is animal and pet liability. So we've seen claims in the past where uh, maybe your guest is walking down the street and a neighbor's dog comes up and bites them. You could be held in a lawsuit with that. You could be found liable with a dog bite claim. So we do include that kind of coverage as well.
And with short-term liability and insurance, how is this different than, say, what State Farm might offer or some other insurance companies where it's just covering like the renter's liability? Like, how is this a little bit different than that?
So the difference between other policies, they're not made for that what you're doing with this property as a short-term rental. They're more made for the homeowner's liability or the landlord's liability, where it's just covering the premises, um, or it's just personal liability. So why we offer commercial is very similar to what you might find at a hotel. So if somebody slips and falls, or they get hurt, or they want to try and sue you, our policy will respond to all of those things. There's no limitations or exclusions around that.
Hmm, hmm. So, can you give us a story or situation that I guess would give people a greater idea of how Proper can help owners in a situation like one of the situations that you mentioned,
Yeah,
where it may not be covered by regular insurance, but with Proper stepping in, that it actually is helpful.
absolutely. We actually just recently had a claim where it's down in Washington. There was a huge party down in a rental down there, $100,000 worth of property damage. Um, we responded, so we replaced all of the contents. We rebuilt the property where it needed to be rebuilt. We also covered the business income that was lost. I think it took 3 or 4 months to get everything replaced and rebuilt. And that client was able to keep making money off their property, even though they weren't technically renting it out.
That's great. That's
Mhm.
awesome. What about like with weather damage? I'm sure there's a lot of, short-term rentals in areas where there's hurricanes, popular places where it's like coastal property. How, in terms of natural disasters, how does proper step in?
So our policy responds to all the basics. So we have fire coverage, same thing, business income is included. We will replace the home, replace all your contents. You'll be able to walk down to a department store, buy all brand new furniture, new lighting, new appliances with that. Um, Fire, windstorms, hail damage is huge. We see trees fall into properties all the time. Um, yeah, we're not scared of weather.
I'm sure, and especially with some, Airbnbs, I'm sure they're in vacation areas where, excuse me, there's a lot of different types of environmental things that
Yeah.
can happen.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, yeah. So, okay, great. Well, is there anything else that you think is important for those who are looking to get insurance for their income property that they should know?
I think just understanding the policy you have. We see a lot of other companies that market short-term rental coverage. Just because they'll cover your property that's operating a short-term rental, it's important to understand what they actually cover in terms of that. I think that's probably the most important takeaway.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Great. And proper does cover by area, correct? So you're Los Angeles, but there's a rep for Orange County, Riverside. Is that how it works?
Absolutely. Yep. So we've got about 20 account executives in the office, and we cater to, we all have our own counties and territories that we operate in. So we get to understand the market in those areas, connect with brokers in the area and property managers. So if you're ever looking for somebody, if you need a property manager that you want to manage your rental, just let us know. We can definitely connect you with somebody.
Okay, awesome. Well, thanks
Yeah.
for sharing this info. It was really, really valuable. If anyone has questions or would like to get further guidance about their income property, please contact Jessica at the contact information I'm going to share right at the end of this video. And thanks so much again.
Of course. Thank you so much.